Welcome back, guys. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Lane.
Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of D&D, our favorite topic. First of all, how to run a session 0.
Session zeros are very important.
I feel like not too many people that kind of get into D&D or play it probably don't experience. You probably don't see session zeros run as much. They just kind of people get on Roll20 or whatever, look for a group. You build your character, go look for a group, and then you just jump right in.
Right.
I think session zeros are important, especially with new groups. I know from our new campaign we're about to start, we're going to have one, but seeing as how our group's already played before, we kind of know the do's and don'ts topics, I guess, like what not to joke about, what not to talk about, what not to bring up, sort of thing. But I feel like for people that are just getting together for the first time, that's a pretty important one. You don't want to, start up your D&D campaign, 3 or 4 sessions, something happened, so it upsets, 1 or 2 people, and now you're down half a party.
A good session zero can also help with things like party building and cooperating together through that kind of thing. Like you always need like a cleric or something like that, or at least have a session zero to say that you're not going to have a cleric, and then have some other characters that can kind of coincide well enough to help with that.
You came to your first session, everyone's playing fighters. Oh boy,
that would be incredible.
We're gonna wipe through everything, the first 3 or 4 combats, and eventually die. Because we can't rest, we can't heal.
Yeah, that depends, and it also depends on which edition you're playing, like how they actually intertwine as different classes.
That's true. I know it seems like a lot of newer editions, they kind of make it to where you don't need a healer in your party as drastically. Because I know that's one thing that class
can be replaced by like potions.
Catches a lot of flack. No one seems to like to play the person that doesn't get to focus on killing things.
Which is nuts because I love playing a cleric.
Same.
That actually makes me a little irritated because clerics can be so powerful in 5e and in Pathfinder, depending on how you build them. They just are really, really good.
Like we were talking about earlier, if you're going to have like a PvP moment between the party, if there's a cleric in there, 9 times out of 10, they're going to win that battle.
Yeah. With a Pathfinder system, I made a cleric and I did some PvP against 4 other players, I think it was. And my cleric ended up taking the gold medal because I had the ability to use my channels in a way to do extra damage, and on top of that, I could heal myself if I just got a decent distance away from the people, enough to be able to actually heal myself.
Yeah. If you're the person keeping everyone else alive, and everyone starts fighting each other, well, you just got to worry about keeping yourself alive.
Exactly.
You just got to outlast whoever else
takes the damage and dies.
Also, session zeros are good for anyone that's going to have homebrew rules in their campaign. Because there's nothing worse than someone thinking they have all the rules learned, go into a session, someone else is DMing, and they do something, and that person goes, "Wait a minute, that's not in the rules. You can't do that."
Yeah.
They can do that. They're the DM, they're the GM. It's their game. Something needs to be talked about beforehand, like, hey, when we play, I'm going to use this rule set, or I'm going to do this way, or this that way.
And even from that point of view, the DM could even ask, like, if everybody is okay with that kind of homebrew, or see like what majority of the group would be okay with it. Because you should do like a majority rules kind of thing. You shouldn't allow one player's being uncomfortable with like a flanking rule or something like that to stop everybody else from being able to do it. Because it can add a lot of fun and a lot of cooperation with your party together to be able to fight things more easily if you have something like, for instance, like flanking.
Yeah, and if you're going to be the DM and you're just going to sit there and kind of be very stout, or what's the word I'm looking for? Very firm, I guess, on your rules, and not if no one else is enjoying your rule set, you're probably the only person having fun and ruin it for everyone else, and that's not D&D at that point. It's just you just kind of going through and doing it for yourself pretty well.
Yeah, everyone should be having a good time.
Yeah, that's the main difference between video games and tabletop role playing games. You're not the main focus. You got everyone at the table has to be having a good time.
On top of that, the DM's world state also has a big amount of significance to it because you have other NPCs as well that have just as much or maybe even more importance at some points than what the party does itself. You know,
Oh,
you could have people in the world state that are highly more important than the party itself, and you don't see that from video game perspectives. You're always the
no,
main
you're always
character,
the
the main
chosen
driving
one.
force of the story in a video game. You know, so it's hard for some people to transition from that kind of play to like a tabletop game like D&D to be able to, not always be that pinnacle of attention.
You know, I feel like a lot of people, when you come from a video game background, you've never played D&D or any kind of tabletop games before, and you're real big on video games. You already have that mentality of you're always playing the hero. Into D&D, I get your party, your group's supposed to be the heroes of that of the campaign, that story.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're not the biggest fish in the pond.
Yeah, most of the time, actually, in a D&D setting, you're usually got somebody that you're going after that is a bigger fish than you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have to have a party of 4 to 5 people or more to be able to take down one organization or even just one person, because a lot of the times you have to have that cooperation in D&D to be able to be successful as a party in a
Yeah.
campaign.
Which is another reason I think during session zero it's good for like if you want to make it if you want to have a character build up, probably fine. I do it all the time. I make characters upon characters upon characters. I don't even know what campaign I'm gonna play in yet.
Yeah.
But I just get a wild hair up my ass, be like, man, I really want to play this kind of build. And then the next campaign that gets brought up that I know I'm gonna play in, I'm like, definitely playing this person. But it is good to have that session zero where everyone kind of comes to the table, lets everyone else know what they're going to be playing, and kind of finding out how well that party's going to mesh together.
Right. Like our session zero that we're about to do here in a couple days. My character is a hunter. I believe yours is a shifling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we have another character in the party who is a druid, I think. And those three characters just in themselves mesh really well together with almost all of their interests, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's one of those I think us knowing the campaign we're going
Setting.
into and knowing
Iron
that
Fang.
setting and kind of having a character made around that setting, everyone else is going to make almost the same character,
Right.
more or less, to kind of
We have the Cavalier,
do good
who is
in
the
in
only
those
one out
scenarios.
that really isn't like a nature revolved character. But he does have a animal companion, so he should be relatively well fitted for our party. We don't have a cleric for this session zero coming up, but we do have, like I said, like one druid, me being a hunter, and I think we have another one. I can't remember what
Yeah,
the
I
other
think there's
person is
like
going to be.
2 or 3 of us where we each kind of
Have our own healing spells.
we can kind of slightly fill that missing
Yeah.
role.
But we still have enough to be able to hold us over and be
Mm-hmm.
able to do well that way for the tougher
Yeah, and
combats.
we might get together on session zero and just find out real quick that our party classes don't mix well together. We're gonna need something else to kind of fill a gap that we thought missed.
Yeah.
And it's gonna suck because I'm really attached to this character I made. I know you are too with yours, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping we go through session zero and don't find a big old open gap in our party where we're like, oh, this role needs filled.
Yeah. I really think that we won't. From just the fourth of us that I know what we're playing, I think the other one's a brawler. I want to say the other one is a brawler.
I think so.
In a
Too.
Pathfinder setting, a brawler. But because my character is a ranged fighter, but I have an animal companion that helps with melee, and then you'll be a melee character as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the horse rider, the pug rider.
Yeah, riding a giant pug.
He's gonna be melee mostly, but he can probably be both as a cavalier. And then
hopefully he makes a
the
decent
brawler
tank,
will be
tank
melee
at
as
least.
well.
Yeah.
So we'll have a couple different people that can heal. Seems like most of the party will be a melee group, but I can cover range and stuff like that. As
Mhm.
far as skill checks goes, I think we'll be able to cover just about anything we'll need for the campaign setting.
Oh yeah,
I think
definitely.
just between our two characters, we could probably cover the skill checks needed, but
I
knowledge
think
nature and stuff like
I
that.
do think we'll have a bard. I think that's going to be our main spellcaster. He won't be good at healing, but again, it's you're kind of taking a little bit to
Hmm.
fill that one role that everyone just kind of
Yeah. If we have a
doing their
bard, then
own,
we'll have
like
a
pulling their
bard,
own
a
weight.
hunter, and a druid that all can cast some healing spells to a degree that would probably be able to
And then
fill
he'll
that void.
also cover our any kind of arcane skills that we need covered
Right.
should still be
Since the
covered.
rest of us will be nature oriented, or
Mm-hmm.
the cavalier just kind of being just a warrior of swords.
And
Probably no knowledge checks on that guy.
swinging back to the whole the do's and don'ts, like discussing the red flag topics, I guess is the best way I can think to put it, of
Yeah.
stuff you don't
Trigger
talk about.
topics.
Yeah, trigger topics. Like I know with our group,
There really
we're
isn't
pretty
any.
lenient when it
Yeah.
comes to like jokes or certain topics that get brought up. And as far as I know, there hasn't been anything super dark. I guess in game that happens. I know we tend to have a lot of out of character talk, joking
Yeah.
around with our dark humor most of the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't think our group specifically really has any like trigger topics that people don't want to talk about or like can't talk about. So it's good to have a group like that to where you don't have to worry about saying something that you probably shouldn't.
mm-hmm.
But like that definitely is something you can cover in a session zero.
Yeah, just
It's
getting it out
trigger
of the way
topics
of
and
if
make
there's
sure that
something
you're
that's
not
gonna upset you, for sure, let the other players know.
right.
Because if they don't know and they say something that offends you, it's not their fault necessarily because they didn't know
Right.
it was gonna offend you in the first place. There was no harm meant by it. Whereas if you sit down and are just like, look, guys, I don't want any kind of talk about rape or sexual abuse in this campaign,
Right.
and then a couple sessions later it gets brought up. Definitely, that
And
you
that
have a
might
right.
just be the dark setting of a campaign.
Yeah,
Like you could just be roundabout whenever you describe something as dark as that, but some people will still pick up on it and could be triggered by it. So that would be one of those things
definitely
that
take the time to figure out
discuss that.
what upsets your players or party members
Yeah,
or whatever.
for both players and DM to understand, what to and what not to talk about.